Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to talk solely about fantasy football. I know the Celtics are going to be playing later today, and when this video comes out, it will probably be either right before or during or even possibly after the game has concluded. But I just wanted to get this video done today because I promised fantasy football videos coming, and this is the first one outside of the rankings, the last rankings video that I did before the fantasy football drafts that were taking place. So week one has concluded. It's weird that it's already here this year. This really crazy year is coming to a quick end. We're already halfway through September, which is insane to think about. But with that comes the football season, and that's going to go by just as quickly. So let's get right into that. So I personally had some success in week one. In my fantasy football leagues, I won 3 out of my 4 leagues in week one, so I'm 1-0. In that one league that I lost, I'm 0-1, which is okay. Those are solid starts either way. And we got some good teams. I don't really want to go over them right now. I could tell you right now that I ended up with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Derrick Henry. Those are a couple of mainstays on my roster. Josh Jacobs, he had a great week for me week one. We're going to see if he can continue a breakout season, being a first-round pick in a lot of fantasy football leagues. I'm really enjoying how my teams are looking. I won a weekly payout with one of my teams, which is great. We had a really great start to my fantasy football year. I hope everyone else also got off to a great start if you are watching this video. But now that week one has concluded, we have the waiver wire to go over. That's always a huge factor every year. You have the traditional waivers where it's from 12 to 1 based on your draft order backwards. Some leagues also use fab money, fantasy football money, whatever you want to call it. That's what we use in one of my leagues. Most of them are waivers, but in one league we happen to have fab money. So without further ado, let's get to those waiver wire players. Number 1, I'm going to go with Nyheim Hines. So I think this is a pretty obvious one. Marlon Mack tore his Achilles very early in week one in his game. So Jonathan Taylor is obviously going to be pretty much the RB1 in that Indianapolis Colts offense. He's going to take over. He was a second-round pick. He was a beast in college. He has all the tools to be successful at the NFL level. So he's going to be the main guy. But what was shown on Sunday is Nyheim Hines is also going to have a role in that offense, in that Colts offense, because Phillip Rivers loves to throw to his running backs. Both Taylor and Hines both had, it was about 6 or 7 receptions each. So, obviously Phillip Rivers had Austin Eckler when he was in San Diego/LA, and now he has Nyheim Hines. And there's a possibility of this pickup being a bust. You never know. Nyheim Hines could go right back to being an irrelevant player in fantasy football next week or the week after. You never know. That's why it's a little risky, which a lot of these pickups are, especially at the running back position that I'm going to be going over. But he could also very well be worth the pickup. So that's the number 1 guy. Number 2 is Benny Snell, the backup running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. James Conner has a long list of injuries in his NFL career. So Benny Snell took over after James Conner sat out for most of the game against the New York Giants last night on Monday Night Football, and he looked really good. He definitely proved himself as someone that could be an effective running back in the NFL. So I think if James Conner happens to miss any time, Benny Snell could definitely take over. And the thing, again, it's risky. Like, I have him as the second pickup, but again, it's very risky because James Conner was out on the sidelines. It's not like he had a season-ending injury like Marlon Mack, and if he did, trust me, he'd be ahead of Nyheim Hines by a mile. But James Conner was out there on the sidelines. The Steelers just decided to not play him for the rest of the game once I think he tweaked his ankle. So again, it's especially if you're using fab money, it's very risky. It's a very risky investment, and it could be worth it, but it could also blow up in your face. So again, he's the number 2 player on my waiver wire rankings, but you really have to be careful with him. Number 3, this is a tough one. He's not. I haven't seen him completely owned in a lot of my leagues. He's mostly owned, but I've still seen him out there. It's Paris Campbell. He's also an Indianapolis Colts player, but he plays the wide receiver position. He's clearly the number 2 receiver in that offense. It seems like they have almost 5 players that could catch a ton of balls from Phillip Rivers on any given night between the running backs, tight ends, and receivers. And Michael Pittman's still, a second-round pick in that offense. But Paris Campbell looked really good on Sunday, and I think he can really carve out a role in the slot in that offense. He seems like a really good player. So that's definitely the number 1 receiver to be looking out for. Number 2, and I'm not really sure why he's out there. I've seen him out there in a couple leagues too. Mike Williams on the Chargers. I mean, I guess it makes sense why he was out there. He went into the season banged up. He's, his shoulder and all that. But he clearly showed that he can play through that. So I would definitely consider picking him up if you need wide receiver help. And I probably should have said this before. These pickups are solely for me this week. There isn't really a player. Hines might be that guy, but he's borderline. There isn't really someone that you should break the bank for to go and get unless you really, really need that position. If you feel like you're comfortable at running back and receiver, I would sit and just, maybe put in a claim, see what happens, but I wouldn't go crazy about it because if you feel comfortable, if you won in week 1 or you barely lost in week 1 and you have 3 running backs or 2 running backs or really good 2 receivers or 3 receivers, you're pretty much all set. So I wouldn't stress too much about it. Another guy out there, not as much, but he would be higher if he was, but he's not really out there as much as I thought he would be, is Malcolm Brown, the running back for the Los Angeles Rams. He had a really good game. He split carries with Cam Akers, but he looked like the better running back and got the goal line work for the most part on Sunday night against the Cowboys. Again, this is another guy where for the next few weeks he probably has a role, especially if he actually does well like he did Sunday night. But if he doesn't, Cam Akers is definitely someone that could take over. They spent a second-round pick on him. That was their first pick in the draft because they didn't have a first-round pick. So Cam Akers is definitely, there's a lot of high hopes for him in Los Angeles, and I wouldn't rule him out. He still got 15 carries, so that's a big deal. It depends on what he ends up doing with them, but it's a tough scenario to try to work out in that Rams backfield because Darrell Henderson is still there. He's probably not going to do much of anything because he's already hurt. So I would consider Malcolm Brown, but I wouldn't go crazy over him again. Same thing with Joshua Kelly, another Los Angeles Charger, another Los Angeles player. He had a really good game. He ran really well. Obviously, Austin Eckler's there, but he's more of the pass-catching back. I wouldn't go too crazy about him either. He looked good. He's a young rookie running the ball. That's gonna happen. I would go next up. Honestly, I would go with. It's tough. This is where it really gets tough. Adrian Peterson looked really good for the Lions, but that running back committee is just a mess. Yeah, DeAndre Swift obviously dropped that game-winning touchdown, so I don't know what the deal is with him in that, on the team, on the offense right now. He looked solid before that, but that's kind of that's a real backbreaker of a play to drop a game-winning touchdown in the end zone, untouched and everything. AP carved out a role. Kerryon Johnson looked irrelevant, so that's really tough pill to swallow if you drafted Kerryon Johnson with a decent pick too, and AP just kind of makes everything a mess there. I would go next, honestly. Robbie Anderson's probably the next guy. So it seems he's going to end up being the player that he was on the Jets. Teddy Bridgewater's not a guy that throws the ball deep, But every once in a while, you'll get like a 50, 60, 70-yard touchdown from Robbie Anderson, it seems like. And that happened on Sunday, and people are losing their minds. They didn't think he was going to be relevant in this offense, but it looks like he is. And I wouldn't count him out. He's someone to have on your bench. He's for like the bye week. So if you want to have someone there for the bye weeks, that's definitely someone to keep your eye on, Robbie Anderson. He's not going to do this every week. With Teddy Bridgewater, it's impossible. Next up, I'm going to go with Corey Davis. He performed really well in the late night Monday night game last night. Not much else to say. He was a top pick in the draft in his 4 years ago in his draft. He hasn't shown up. They didn't pick up his 5th-year rookie option because he hasn't done well for them. A.J. Brown was a breakout player for the Titans last year at the receiver spot, so he's the main focus on the receivers in that offense. You got Jonnu Smith at tight end too. Maybe that's just what it was for Corey Davis, but he had a great day, and I'm pretty sure it seems like he's done this before in the first week or two, and then he just completely falls off, and people are mad they wasted a waiver on him, which could completely be the case. So it's up to you if you want that waiver or not, but he's not the worst player to put something in for. Next up, I'm gonna go with Scotty Miller. He's that white receiver that the Tom Brady seems to love now in Tampa Bay. Tom Brady loves his little white guys as receivers. So, and Scotty Miller is about as Julian Edelman-esque as you could get, I guess, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, he seems like he likes him. He's definitely the number 3 receiver in that offense. He's far behind Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, but hey, if it works, why not? Next up, this is where it starts to get tough because you're starting to go with tight ends and quarterbacks and maybe even defenses in there. But before all that, I'm going to go with Marquez Valdes-Scantling. It's a tough one again. I feel like he's not really someone you can depend on every week. That's why he's not that high up on this list. He is technically, he looks like number 2 or 3 on any given week receiver with switching off with Allen Lazard, way behind Davante Adams in the Packers offense. Aaron Rodgers is going to feed Davante Adams. If you got him in the back end of the first round of your drafts, then that's an absolute steal because that's where he was going for the most part in my leagues. So yeah, he's very volatile. You never know. Russell Gage is another one. He looks like he has the Mohamed Sanu role in Atlanta, which could be a great week like this first week or a poor week like basically any other given week. So you never know. I would go with the Jets backfield right now. Le'Veon Bell just got put on IR for at least 3 weeks. They have a rookie running back. I'm forgetting his name. I know his last name's P. Ryan, but not his. I can't remember his first name right now. Levante, I think. But there's still Josh Adams and there's still Frank Gore, and Frank Gore seems like to be the ageless wonder right now. Basically the Tom Brady of running backs. Obviously not as good and doesn't have the championship pedigree that Tom Brady has, but the longevity is definitely there. So Frank Gore is always going to be relevant. He didn't look amazing with the carries that he had after Le'Veon Bell left the game on Sunday, but again, that's a tough Buffalo Bills team, and you never know with him. There's 3 tight ends: Noah Fant, Dallas Goedert, and Austin Hooper. Those are 3 pickups that you could definitely have. T.J. Hawkinson's another one, but I feel like he's mostly rostered. They all had some solid days. Well, Austin Hooper didn't have a solid day, but David Njoku went down with an injury, so Austin Hooper is the main tight end in that offense. The other 3 guys had some really great days. Peyton Barber's there. I don't know how long his role's going to last. You never know with those young guys in Washington, but he ended up having a decent role. Myles Gaskin got some snaps, but I feel like Jordan Howard will probably get some more than he did on Sunday. I wouldn't look into that too much. Greg Olsen, I guess you can put him up there, but I really wouldn't waste anything on him. Some quarterback. Honestly, the only quarterback actually I would go with Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew has a couple of nice matchups. If you can keep what he did in week 1, that's a really good deal that you could get for him. So that's definitely someone I would look at. Kirk Cousins, I guess, could be there too, but I'm not a huge fan of Kirk Cousins. He's playing from behind, so he had a couple of nice plays, but there's a reason that they were playing from behind, and one of them is Kirk Cousins. So proceed with caution there. Laviska Shenault is one of actually Gardner Minshew's receivers. He's a rookie receiver they took in the second round in the NFL draft. He looked like he had a good rookie, debut. He had a solid day. Traquan Smith is someone to look into, possibly with Michael Thomas hurt, but again, he's never really had a major role. He's really just one of those deep catch guys. He's basically Robbie Anderson light, which, as a Robbie Anderson owner knows, is just it's nothing. It's a very volatile role. So Keelan Cole's up there. Jimmy Graham could be up there. There's a lot of guys, but I think the guys I really talked about are the ones that you should be focusing on for the most part. So there's the waiver wire rankings. I'm going to try to do these every Tuesday. Hopefully they'll come out a little earlier than this, but you should have enough time between now and whenever your waiver wire claims have to be put in. I think it's like 12 in the morning, 1 in the morning, something like that, a little earlier than that. So you should be okay. I'm going to do quick week 2 rankings too for fantasy football, just based on the opponents for each position. I'm probably going to do a top 10 real quick just to rattle it off for you guys in case anyone has any lineup questions. I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson, QB1. I think that pretty much speaks for itself. He looks like he hasn't lost a step, although the Cleveland Browns aren't exactly the golden standard of the NFL, so he beat up on them. Mahomes, I would put number 2. That can switch any given week. Dak Prescott, number 3. Atlanta does not have a good pass defense. Russell Wilson, number 4. He does have to face a tough Patriots secondary. Even as a Pats fan, I think Russell Wilson has a really good fantasy football day and a good day in general. The Seahawks are probably favored in that game, especially because it's in Seattle. So I would definitely start Russell Wilson. I would go with Kyler Murray at number 5. He had a really good day against a tough 49ers defense. The Washington football team is not that great. They have an okay defense. They beat the Eagles, but Carson Wentz is not as mobile as Kyler Murray is and does not have the weapons that Kyler Murray does on that offense. I would go with Josh Allen next. He's playing the Dolphins. They're not really good at all. He beat up on the Jets early on. He had a couple good plays. I would pick him next. Matt Ryan's probably up there after him. I feel like it's going to be a shootout with the Cowboys, so if they can really keep that going, that's really good. Drew Brees against the Vegas Raiders, Monday Night Football, Showtime, even without Michael Thomas. We'll see how that goes. I actually just got some breaking news. Michael Thomas's high ankle sprain seems to be worse than originally believed. He's now expected to miss several weeks, so that's a tough break for the Saints. And the 49ers also signed Mohamed Sanu, so, he obviously is a Pats fan. I know how awful he was, so, yeah, that's not good. Next up is Aaron Rodgers. He had a really good day, obviously, but he started off pretty slow. That's why he's kind of low here. And then I'll finish it off with Deshaun Watson. He has a tough matchup. Unfortunately, the Texans got the short end of the stick starting off the first 2 weeks with Kansas City and Baltimore on back-to-back weeks. So that's not good for them. Moving on to the running backs, Derrick Henry, number 1. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. He obviously didn't do too much with his carries. He got a ton of work, though, on Monday Night Football, and he plays a really weak Jaguars team that he usually beats up on pretty much every year. Christian McCaffrey, number 2, even against the Tampa Bay run defense, that's pretty good. Zeke in number 3 in that shootout with Atlanta, potentially. I'll go with Kamara, Alvin Kamara, number 4. Vegas doesn't exactly have the best defense. I'll go with Dalvin Cook at number 5 against the Colts. Number 6, I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs because, he had a really good day. Let's see if he can repeat that. I think he can. Number 7, I'm going to go with Saquon Barkley. He is Saquon Barkley, but, he had a really rough day on Monday Night Football last night, and he gets a really tough Chicago Bears defense, but we'll see how that goes. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is next. I think he's still going to have a pretty good day. He could be a little low here, but I want to see something out of him. Even as a fantasy owner of him, I want to see a little bit more consistency. It was his first, he looked really good in that first game, but when I say consistency, I mean I want to see him do really well in multiple games before I can start ranking him a little higher. Next, I would go with Nick Chubb. The Cleveland Browns are not. I'm sorry, Nick Chubb. The Cleveland Browns are not that great on offense, but he's a really good player. He didn't do too well, and they were playing from behind, so Kareem Hunt was used. But the Bengals are not the Baltimore Ravens, so I think he has a pretty solid day. And on the other side of the field, Joe Mixon for the Bengals against the Browns. It's the same deal. The Browns are not that good of a team, so that rounds out the top 10 with that. For the receivers, I don't really see how you could go with anyone else besides Devontae Adams after last week at number 1. Julio Jones, number 2 in the shootout. DeAndre Hopkins, number 3. Chris Godwin, number 4. Adam Thielen, number 5. I did have Michael Thomas up here, but he's probably going to be taken out of that. I'll go with Tyreek Hill at number 6. Number 7, I'm going to go with Adam Thielen. Number 8, Allen Robinson. Number 9, Number 9, I'm thinking Amari Cooper in that shootout. It makes most sense. And number 10, I'm going to go with Robert Woods. I really liked what I saw, and the Eagles don't really have much to defend him with. So that would be my top 10 for this week in receivers. Tight ends, Travis Kelce at 1. George Kittle, if healthy against the New York Jets, the number 1 option in the 49ers offense. He has to be number 2. Number 3, Mark Andrews. Number 4, Zach Ertz. Number 5, Darren Waller. Number 6, I'll go with Hunter Henry. Number 7, Tyler Higbee. Number 8, Jared Cook, but I was debating on putting him up now that Michael Thomas's news has come out. We'll see what happens with that. Number 9, I'm going to go with Evan Ingram. And number 10, Noah Fant. So that's pretty much what you would expect from that tight end position with rankings. Number 1 for the kickers now, Harrison Butker. Number 2, Justin Tucker. Number 3, Will Lutz. Number 4, Greg Zuerlein. Number 5, Robbie Gould. Number 6, I'll go with Mason Crosby. Number 7, Zane Gonzalez. Number 8, Younghoe Koo. Number 9, Matt Prater sounds pretty good at number 9. And number 10, I'm going to roll with Justin Suckup because I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers really bounced back with their offense this week after not really showing up. So I think that it's going to correlate well with Ryan Succup's play that day. But again, we're talking about kickers here. And last but not least, defense and special teams. I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills at number 1 against the Miami Dolphins. Number 2, the 49ers against the Jets. Number 3, the Steelers against the Broncos. Number 4, the Ravens against the Texans. Number 5, I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears against the New York Giants. Number 6, I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Number 8, or I think it's number 7 actually, I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs against the Chargers. Next, I'll go with the Rams against the Eagles because I think they could honestly really rush them if the Eagles' offensive line doesn't bring itself together, and Miles Sanders might still be out, so you never know. On the flip side, I'm going to put the Eagles against the Rams because Jared Goff is just so prone to messing things up, so I really think that could be a possibility. And last, I'm going to say the New Orleans Saints against the Vegas Raiders, just in case. I feel like the Raiders could have a good day on Monday Night Football, but they could also have a really bad day too. So that's what I'm going to go with for the rankings for week 2. As far as this, I really want to talk about the Celtics real quick too. As far as they go, they looked really good against the Raptors. I don't think that was like a real 7-game series for the Boston Celtics. They probably should have ended that in 5. The buzzer beater by OG Anunoby really set them back in that series, but they ended up overcoming it, and it worked out in the end. Yeah, I think this is definitely a tougher matchup. The Miami Heat are a very good team. They just beat the number 1 seed in the Milwaukee Bucks, the MVP, the Defensive Player of the Year, Giannis Antetokounmpo. So Jimmy Butler's in his zone right now, and I think this could be a real 7-game series compared to, I just don't think the last one was a real 7-game series. So I wouldn't look too much into that. But go Celtics. This game's probably happening right now as this video is uploading. So I'll be watching that while posting this and posting it to my story on Instagram. If you guys enjoy these videos, please like and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate all the support so far. It means a lot. We're almost at 100 subscribers, so that's really great. And thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time.